As I was about to leave my brother's restaurant, the female manager stopped me. Miss, excuse me, but you haven't paid your bill. I looked at the unfamiliar face and thought that she was probably new and didn't recognize me, so I explained politely, just put it on the owner's tab. He knows me. The manager shot me a disdainful look. Miss, this is a Michelin 3-star restaurant. We don't let just anyone run up a tab. She handed me a printed bill. I glanced at it. $50,000 for one meal, $3,000 for tableware maintenance, $5,000 for exclusive air purification, $10,000 for a VIP mood calming service fee, and a bunch of other ridiculous charges. I didn't even know my brother's place was such a scam. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. I'm the owner's sister. If there's a problem, tell him to talk to me at home. But she just wouldn't drop it. If you can't afford it, stop acting like you can. And don't act like you know Mr. Dennis either. I fired off a quick text to my secretary. Tell my brother to either fire this manager or I'm pulling my investment. Miss, stop wasting everyone's time and just pay your bill. The manager's tone was sharp and condescending, as if she were already sure I was trying to score a free meal. A few curious glances came from the people around us. I frowned, not wanting to waste my time on something this ridiculous. I took out my phone to call my younger brother, Dennis White. All I got was a busy signal. I tried again, but still nothing. It was a work day. What could that brat possibly be doing? I put my phone away and looked at the pushy woman right in the eye as I repeated myself, word for word. I'll say it one more time. My name is Teresa White. I'm Dennis's older sister. If you can't reach him, just check his account. My photo and information are all linked to his card. I thought that was the most direct and effective way to settle things. However, upon hearing my name, the manager didn't even bother to check. Instead, she burst into a loud laugh, drawing even more attention our way. She leaned in suddenly, lowering her voice so that only the two of us could hear. Still playing pretend? I've seen your face on my hubby Dennis's social media. You're just a shameless witch, sneaking around with my man. And now you have the nerve to show up here and try to put your meal on his tab? How thick-skinned are you? For a moment, I was stunned. I glanced at her name tag, Jessica Thompson. I could only feel speechless at all of this. So, this was Dennis's so-called secret girlfriend, the one he wouldn't even show me a photo of. How could Dennis have such terrible taste? I see. This outrageous $50,000 bill wasn't some kind of misunderstanding. It was a setup, planned all along just to humiliate me. Before I could say another word, she had lost her patience. If this lady wants to dine and dash, we'll just have to detain her and wait for the police. She waved her hand, and two brawny security guards who had been waiting nearby immediately stepped forward. One clamped a hand tightly over my mouth, while the other twisted my arms behind my back like I was a criminal. I struggled, but it was hopeless due to the difference in strength. Ignoring my furious glare and the shocked looks from the other guests, they dragged me roughly toward the kitchen. They then dumped me into a storage room that reeked of disinfectants and leftover food. The door slammed shut, cutting me off from all light and sound outside. In the darkness, the manager, Jessica, didn't say a word. She simply lifted her foot that was clad in a high heel and kicked me hard in the stomach. The pain was so intense that I curled up on the floor, my stomach churning. Spending my man's money, huh? Trying to seduce him? She screamed, her voice tinted by jealousy and rage. Standing over me, she ordered the two guards and said, "Beat her up and don't hold back." The two security guards were clearly on her side. Without the slightest hesitation, they started to punch and kick me. I clenched my teeth, keeping inside every cry and groan. It felt like my bones were breaking and my innards were scrambling. Jessica kept screaming, "Who do you think you are? You're nothing but a leech. I told you I'm his sister. If you don't believe me, ask Dennis yourself. Call him right now, and I'll speak to him." I tried to explain, but she didn't care at all. She only raised her hand and stopped the assault when I grew dizzy and everything started spinning. She pressed the heel of her high heel onto my shoulder, smiling down at me. "You'd better pay for your meal today and cough up another $50,000. This is what you get for going after my man and spending his money. I'm not afraid of anything worse happening. Dennis will handle it for me." I managed to protest weakly, even as I was curled up and barely able to breathe from the pain. "That's my own money. I told you. If you don't believe me, ask him." Her face darkened, and she kicked me again. The two guards immediately understood and started beating me up once more. By then, I knew it didn't matter what I said. If this kept up, I really might die here. After I spat out a mouthful of blood, I used the last of my strength to feel around for my phone. "Stop. I'll pay." She seemed satisfied with my submission, motioning for the guards to stop. She crouched down and patted my swollen cheek. "See? Isn't that easier? You made things so hard for yourself when you could have just done it my way. $100,000 and not 1 cent less." Lying on the cold floor, I felt my lungs burning as I gasped for air. I ignored her and called my best friend, Mary Langton. She picked up immediately. "Mary, bring $200,000 to Dennis's restaurant. I need it right now." Mary went quiet for a second, immediately sensing something was wrong. "Teresa, what happened? Why is your voice?" "Don't ask, just hurry." I cut her off and hung up. When Jessica Thompson heard 200,000, her eyes lit up. There was a glint of greed in her expression. She probably thought I had been beaten into submission and was offering even more just for mercy. She couldn't hide her smugness anymore. Smart choice. Mary acted incredibly fast. The storage room door was shoved open from the outside in no time. Mary strode in with two bodyguards at her side. When she saw the blood at the corner of my mouth, my disheveled clothes, and the mess I was in on the floor, she was genuinely shocked. She rushed over and helped me up. I shook my head, signaling her not to say a word. Then I took the bank card from her hand with the password taped on it and tossed it to Jessica. The woman took the card but didn't bother to argue further. She just waved her hand dismissively. "If this card is fake, I have ways to find you. Now get out." I shuffled out of that disgusting place with Mary's support as I endured the intense pain all over my body. At the entrance, I thanked her. "Thanks, Mary. I'll pay you back as soon as this is over." She simply looked at me, worried. "It's just money. Don't worry about it." "But what happened to you?" I managed to laugh. "My brother really picked a winner for a girlfriend. I need to have a little chat with him." I took out my phone and found the number for the restaurant's deputy CEO. He was the real person in charge, someone I had personally recruited. He was also absolutely loyal to me. Once the call connected, I didn't waste a single word. My voice was cold and emotionless. Dennis. You have 10 minutes to fire the manager named Jessica Thompson. If you don't, the White family will pull every cent of its investment out of the restaurant. I won't leave a cent behind. The deputy CEO on the other end was so shaken by my voice that he sounded like he was about to have a panic attack. He could probably hear how weak and off I sounded, and he agreed immediately without even daring to ask why. I hung up and took a cab straight to the police station without pause. I explained everything that had happened in the clearest, calmest way possible to the officer at the front desk. After making a detailed statement, I went to the hospital for a full medical examination. Holding that thin report in my hand, the anger and sense of betrayal inside me flared up even more. I needed an explanation. I needed Dennis to look me in the eye and give me an explanation himself. My assistant found out Dennis was at his own residence. I went straight to his manor with my driver and bodyguard. Even that manor had been a gift from me. But when I arrived, I was greeted by deafening heavy metal music and the sound of men and women laughing and shouting through the doors and windows. He was having a party. No wonder he hadn't answered my calls earlier. The front door was half opened. For some reason, I didn't push it open right away. Soon, I heard the familiar voice of a woman sobbing. It was Jessica Thompson. She was inside, crying to the whole crowd, painting herself as the poor victim who had been bullied by some haughty homewrecker who had hit back. All I did was ask her to pay, but she threw $100,000 in my face and even got me fired. Dennis, she has gone too far. She doesn't respect you at all. She just wants to humiliate me and break us up. Inside, Dennis's group of rotten friends all chimed in, acting outraged on her behalf. Dennis held Jessica, comforting her in a tone full of concern and affection. Don't worry, Jessica. I won't let you be treated like this. To prove himself, he made a showy promise to everyone in the room. As soon as I find that woman, I'll make her get down on her knees and apologize to you. The crowd of Nepo babies jumped in, each louder than the last. Dennis, just say the word. We will drag her out right now. Yeah, let her see who's really in charge here. I couldn't bear to listen to any of it anymore. I raised my hand, and my bodyguard kicked the door wide open. The music stopped instantly, and all the laughter and noise vanished instantly. Dozens of dumbfounded faces turned to stare at the entrance simultaneously. No need for that, I'm right here. So who's going to teach me a lesson? My husband's ex-girlfriend secretly donated a kidney to me. After the surgery, her health declined rapidly, and my husband took care of her with overwhelming attentiveness. Then, standing on his moral high ground, he scolded me. Nina, she ended up like this because of who? Can't you be a little more understanding? Endless arguments followed, and I eventually wasted away from the emotional exhaustion. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment right before my kidney transplant surgery. I immediately pulled out my oxygen tube. I'm not going through with the surgery. I'm giving up on treatment. I never imagined that after my death, my husband would go insane. The overhead fluorescent light flickered, making me dizzy. The sound of the doctor's voice announcing the countdown to the kidney transplant echoed in my ears. I suddenly realized I had been reborn. Without hesitation, I pulled the oxygen tube out. Struggling, I sat up on the operating table. Dr. Lucas, I'm not going through with the surgery. I'm giving up treatment. Dr. Lucas was shocked, repeatedly emphasizing that my body couldn't afford to wait any longer, and that if I missed this chance, I might not find another matching donor in time. I thanked him, but I remained firm. Dr. Lucas sighed in resignation and notified everyone to cancel the surgery. After signing the organ donation consent form, I returned to the downtown loft I shared with Ryan. I started packing my bags. I had been diagnosed with kidney failure in the second year of our marriage while we were trying to conceive. At that time, Ryan and I were constantly at odds because of Claire Young. I thought having a baby might bring us closer, but instead, I received the terrible news about my health. Strictly speaking, Claire wasn't really Ryan's ex-girlfriend. She appeared in his life while I was abroad pursuing my ballet career, and they never officially became a couple. Back then, I was ambitious and determined not to give up my career for love. And I succeeded, becoming the principal dancer of the Joffrey Ballet in just 2 years. When I returned, I found out Ryan had been waiting for me all those years. His devotion moved me beyond words, and memories of our time together as students filled me with warmth. I accepted his proposal. It was only after we married that I learned about Claire Young. I discovered they had nearly become a couple, but my return to the US had torn them apart. Because of my upbringing, I've always been sensitive and insecure in relationships. Ever since learning about Claire, I couldn't sleep at night, and the arguments between Ryan and me grew more intense. I questioned him, asking why he claimed to love me but still had feelings for someone else. He accused me of being unreasonable and making things up. As the fights escalated, Ryan started working late just to avoid coming home. It wasn't until I sought help from a therapist that I realized I still loved Ryan, this man who had been such a huge part of my youth. So I called him and asked him to come home. That night he rushed back, embracing me as if he never wanted to let go. He promised he would transfer Claire to another city and focus on our marriage from then on. It was around that time I went for a checkup, planning to start preparing for a baby. Later, the doctor told me they had found a matching kidney donor. The donor wished to remain anonymous and didn't want to reveal their identity. I understood, but I never imagined that person would be Claire. The day after my surgery, Ryan sat by my bedside with red eyes and told me we owed Claire a huge debt. From that point on, he showered her with care and attention. I couldn't show any dissatisfaction. If I did, I'd be seen as ungrateful, a heartless woman. I could only watch as Claire slowly took Ryan away from me. I was powerless to stop it. In the end, I wasted away from the stress. When I died, Ryan stayed by Claire's side, refusing to leave her for a moment. This time, I've chosen to let them be, to free myself. I had lived in the downtown loft for 2 years, and packing took 3 suitcases. I sat on the couch, waiting. By 11 p.m., Ryan still hadn't come home. I called him. He answered almost immediately. But on the other end, it was Claire's voice. Mrs. Carter, is there something you need from Mr. Carter? He's exhausted from back-to-back meetings and fell asleep at the office. Claire had just undergone the kidney transplant surgery in Chicago. I knew that, but I didn't expect her to head straight to Ryan's office after getting off the operating table. She really did love him. I spoke calmly. It's nothing important. Just let him know when he wakes up. I've left the divorce papers on the dining table. Tell him to sign them when he has the time. Claire gasped in shock on the other end of the line, her excitement barely concealed sealed. Before she could say anything else, I hung up. I moved back to my Gold Coast apartment, the one I'd bought before we were married. I thought Ryan would come looking for me, or at the very least call to discuss the divorce. But, as it turned out, I was overthinking it. There was no word from him. His phone had even been turned off. With no other choice, I went to his office. To my surprise, the receptionist informed me that Ryan had been in a car accident 3 days ago. His phone had been smashed, and he hadn't had a chance to replace it. He had just undergone surgery and was now out of danger. My first reaction wasn't worry, but amusement. I had been diagnosed with kidney failure and hadn't told him. He got into a car accident, and I didn't know. This marriage had clearly run its course. I drove to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, and sure enough, I ran into Claire outside the private suite. She was dressed casually, with perfectly applied makeup, radiating friendliness. I glanced toward the hospital room. Is Ryan not here? Mr. Carter's getting some tests done. He should be back in about an hour. Claire's expression turned cold as she closed the door to the suite. Why don't you head home? Her disdain for me was clear. I smirked. Claire, you can play the part of Mrs. Carter all you want after the divorce, but right now you're still not qualified. Claire frowned, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Is that all you've got? She paused for a moment, then smirked, bragging. Did you know, when Ryan was unconscious and being rushed to the hospital, he was calling out my name the entire time? That's why the hospital called me and not you. Mrs. Carter. She bit hard on the words, Mrs. Carter, her tone heavy with ridicule. In the past, hearing this would have sent me into a rage, but after all the arguments and silent treatments, I no longer cared. I was dying anyway. What did it matter what she said? I remained calm, pulled out the divorce papers from my bag, and handed them to her. In that case, could you give this to your Mr. Carter? Have him sign and return them when he gets the chance. As I spoke, I watched Claire's face change. She grabbed my wrist, trying to make me slap her with the papers. The divorce papers scattered everywhere, and Claire turned her head to the side, dramatically covering her face with her hand, feigning pain. I winced from the sharp pain in my wrist, sucking in a breath. Before I could react, Ryan's cold, angry voice came from behind. Apologize. Ryan stormed over and immediately pulled Claire behind him, shielding her. Claire shot me a triumphant smile. She was claiming her territory. I could feel my blood boiling. I didn't care who Ryan wanted to protect, but if Claire thought she could openly frame me, she was mistaken. I coldly bent down to pick up the divorce papers, walked right up to Claire and slapped them against her face again. Ryan moved to stop me, but it was too late. I glared at Claire fiercely. See it clearly? Next time you try to frame me, at least make it convincing. Claire's face flushed red on one side. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked pitifully at Ryan. Ryan's brow furrowed deeply, and he pulled Claire even further behind him. His eyes pierced through me. Can you leave her out of this? Why are you acting like a lunatic? I've heard this 1,000 times before, I replied calmly, unfazed. If you don't want your assistant to be hurt again, just sign the divorce papers. Ryan's face was tense with anger, but after a moment he turned to Claire with a professional tone. Sorry, my wife didn't mean it. Consider this a workplace injury. Keep your receipts and the company will reimburse you. You've worked hard these past few days. You can head home now. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Claire gave a soft, grateful reply before gathering her things and leaving the room. Once she was gone, I followed Ryan into the suite. The moment we stepped inside, he pulled me into his arms, burying his face in my neck. Nina, don't you have any compassion? That night, I woke up to see you had been calling me repeatedly, saying you wanted a divorce. I panicked, speeding home, and ended up in the car accident. And now you don't even visit me in the hospital. You still want to go through with the divorce. His voice broke as he clung to me like a lost puppy. Nina, please, have mercy on me.